Please, can you please just introduce yourself to our listeners?
Thank you very much to the listeners and to the colleagues on the panel. My name is Pastor Brian Mundia. I'm the Director for Sabbath School and Personal Ministries and Adventist Community Services. So I would love to welcome everyone, and I'm happy to be part of this discussion.
All right, thank you very much. Maybe let me go to Ms. Juba Kuzwaya to introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juba Kuzwayo, and I am the National Director of Meals on Wheels Community Services, South Africa. And I'm excited to be part of this discussion on the church and the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're glad to have you on board. Let me just cross over and go to the Cape Conference and ask Pastor Khoji to please introduce himself also to our listeners.
Thank you. Greetings, beloved. I am Lelwa Khoji. I'm currently serving Meals on Wheels Community Services as an Eastern Cape Director. It is a privilege and an honor to share the wonderful activities with the panel and also with you as our viewers. Thank you, Jay.
All right. All right, Pastor Rantsoabe.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mpho Rantsoabe. I'm from Meals on Wheels Community Services Trans Orange Conference. I'm privileged as well to be part of this panel, and I'm looking forward to sharing my thoughts on the topic, the church in the community.
All right. Thank you very much, Pastor Rantsoabe. I see that we also have Pastor Nech with us. Pastor Nech, can I please ask you to introduce yourself? I think he's muted there. I'm not sure what's happening with that line. Maybe we'll come back to him. Pastor Michize is also with us. And this time I'm going to ask Pastor Michize to also introduce himself.
Hi everyone, my name is Thulani Michize. I serve in the Trans Orange Conference from Adventist Community Services, and it is my privilege and pleasure to be part of this discussion.
All right, thank you very much, Kawazela. You're welcome in this conversation this afternoon. Look, I've been listening in this introduction, and a number of people are saying MOOCs. And I hear someone now talking about ACS. Maybe let's just begin there and ask the question, Juba, what is MOOCs? What is this animal that we call MOOCs? Please unmute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. I think it's an important question to ask. So Meals on Wheels is, it stands for, MOOCs rather stands for Meals on Wheels Community Services. And we are owned and operated by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And it is the ministry of compassion of the church, which is patterned after the mission of Jesus, prophesied in Isaiah 58 verse 6, and 61 verses 1 2. So we are all aware of that prophecy where Christ says, where the prophet Isaiah says, prophesying about Christ, that he's here to proclaim the good news to the poor, to bind up the brokenhearted, and to release prisoners from their imprisonment. So Meals on Wheels is an entity, it's an NGO that is owned and operated by the SDA Church. But I want to just say also as well that our organization has got two levels of accountability. Yeah. And I want to start with just unpacking those two levels of accountability. We have spiritual and organizational accountability, firstly to God, and then to the SDA Church. And then we have operational and fiduciary responsibility. And that accountability is related to the fact that we are an NPO registered in South Africa under the Department of Social Development. Yes. And we are accountable to our government, to our sponsors, and to our donors. So as much as we are owned, our constitution says we are owned and operated by the SDA Church. However, we have those two levels of responsibility or accountability that we must fulfill as an NGO registered under the NPO Act in South Africa. Okay. We have a national footprint. We have about 102 branches or projects that where we are servicing meals to the community. We are serving about 29 million meals normally per annum every single year to South Africans. Okay. So I just end there for now.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll come back to that part, but I guess then maybe Meals on Wheels has not been around for that long because we haven't heard much about Meals on Wheels. Mpho Rantsoabe, where is this animal coming from? Did it just show up in the recent 2 months ago, or what?
Meals on Wheels was formed in 1964. So Meals on Wheels has been around for a very long time. It's said that Meals on Wheels is known more outside of the church than in the church. But I'm grateful for opportunities like this, where we can share information, where we can make everybody aware about one of the leading NGOs in South Africa when it comes to food security, which is owned by the church and is making a great impact in the community. So, so it's been around for a very long time, and we look forward to being around for an even longer time too.
So Mpho Michize, how does ACS relate to MOX? Maybe let me begin by asking, what is it that you do as ACS?
Okay, ACS is an abbreviation for Adventist Community Services, and we are mainly to. I'm asking that you allow me to explain the setup in the TOC. ACS is a department of the World Church, Adventist Community Services. Its former name was known as DOCAS, which was just welfare ministries by females in the church. And traditionally, it was mainly the senior ladies in the church who were doing that. Now, over the years, the church saw it fit that the work of welfare ministry cannot only be limited to females, and we then got to develop to Adventist Community Services, which allows both male and female to participate. Now, the functions that are within that have to do with disaster response. They have to do with poverty alleviation, food security issues, nutrition, and the like. Now, what then happened in the TOC is that the Trans-Orange Conference, with its unique setup and needs, then set up an Adventist Community Services department, but then within that, we then made it we put then 3 functions that are all reporting under ACS. One was the ADRA initiatives, so that as my leader, Pastor Thulani, would say later, he will explain that as he is doing ADRA South Africa, we then, the initiatives and all the plans that they are having, we then support them fully. We exist to support and then run with the initiatives that they are having. And then secondly, the Dorcas of the ladies. Then we did not, the TOC in the adoption of ACS department did not stop the operations of the Federation of the ladies who are doing welfare ministries, namely Dorcas. We still kept Dorcas operating there, the Dorcas Federation, who are also reporting to our department. That is the second one. And then the third one became the Adventist Men Ministries. So now in the TOC, when you are referring to ACS, you are referring to other initiatives, you are referring to the Adventist Men Ministries and the Dorcas. Now, put together these three, what is common of all of these functions is mainly the work of community services. So that's what we are all about in community services.
Okay, good. Good. Now, what is how is this set up, the issue of MOOCs and ACS in the Cape Conference? Pastor Khoji?
Thank you, Chair. I guess that question would have to be expressed by Elder Thulani, because at the present moment, I don't have a recollection of having an ADRA rep in the Cape Conference, or in fact, if there is a rep, Pastor Netch will be able to express himself. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, and how does MOOCs function in the Cape Conference?
Thank you, Chair. We have 3 regions in the Cape Conference, with 3 directors and financial directors covering the Western Cape. Then I will be covering the Eastern Cape. And then we also have 1 director covering the Northern Cape. All of 3 of us are independently working within our own localities in terms of provinces, where we need joint ventures in programs. That's when we come together to create such programs. However, this is how the formation of the Cape Conference is represented in regards to Meals on Wheels. Okay.
Now, how does Pastor Mundia, the MOOCs work with your department? What kind of relationship do you have there?
Thank you, Pastor Chair, to the panel for bringing in that question. It's good you are asking it. There is some kind of fluid understanding somewhere in our churches as to the relationship between MOOCs. Maybe ADRA is a little bit clear, and then Adventist Community Services. Adventist Community Services is provided for in the church manual, and it falls under personal ministries. They are the sub-services of personal ministries. Like we are rightly introducing it, it's the church in the community. Yeah. When you look at the church manual, that section of community service, it will tell you a few functions that ACS does. One of them, food is there. And many other things, distribution of clothing and so forth. Okay. So it is from that level or from that foundation that you see MOOCs also coming, because it's provided for in the our global church book, the handbook, the manual. So at union level and here in our beautiful great country, South Africa, they singled out the service of food to the needy. And because the need is so great, this child grew to become so big to the extent that for an ordinary person out there in the church will not differentiate, or the child has even outgrown the parent who is ACS. Remember, MOOCs has within the name there is community service. That community service comes from Adventist Community Service. ADRA is also community service. it draws from that umbrella name of Adventist Community Service. But just because it has grown so big, it became necessary that there is need to create a department or a sector. And now these two are now registered with NPOs as NPOs in South Africa. They draw funding from the public, some of which from government and so forth. And that necessitates it to take accountability or to give accountability to those who are doing funding. So that is where ADRA and MOX come in. They are part of the bigger umbrella of community service. So let me pick about back to the general community service itself. It is a service within the church, but we still operate more at local church level. Of course, because of that provision in the church manual, it escalates to go at conference level. There must be somebody coordinating that department. At union level, there must be somebody coordinating it. But with ACS, you are not required, or it's not necessary that you have to be registered with the government. But where it is required, maybe the government wants you to register because, you know, we are dealing with a very sensitive world and so forth, issues of health, the health of food and others. Some local churches or some conferences or some districts, they may register with the government so that they are licensed to do so. So, but generally, we operate without a license. It is to serve the communities in the name of Christ. An individual can take food, a department can take food, or whatever they are doing in the community, clothing, food, any other community service that they can render to, in the community. We are that arm of the church that addresses the felt needs of the people, especially at physical level, clothing, feeding. Especially we focus on people who are disenfranchised in society, marginalized, vulnerable, disadvantaged. So we work on a volunteer basis. So the major difference between ACS now and ADRA and MOX is that MOX and ADRA are registered with the government as NPOs, drawing funding from the public. Hence, there is a need. There are legal entities of the church, but ACS does not necessarily have to be a legal entity. It can operate at local church level. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
At the union level, do we have an established relationship, work relationship that exists between MOX and ADRA? And I'm asking this question because at church level,
yes,
there seems to be confusion there, and also that quite a number of people don't even know who MOX is. That's why we are bringing this discussion here.
Thank you so much. We have an established relationship. Since MOX is a registered entity, a legal entity of the church doing service in the community, and there is a director and a board. I think Juba will expand so much on that. I, from the personal ministries or ACS church point of view, I sit there as a member. That is how we work together. I just sit there on the board. I'm a member of the board of MOX, and I also sit on the board of ADRA. So that is the relationship. But maybe when it comes to the details of the objectives, the mission, yeah, I'll leave that to the to the directors of ADRA and MOX to address. But at that level, I sit on there. I'm not chairing it. They chair. Correct. They sit. Yeah.
Now I understand. That's fine. Maybe if I can come back to you,
yes,
Juba, in relation to how MOX can work or works with ACS at church level, because one of the challenges we have now is that people don't know MOX, and they think MOX serves another community somewhere else that has nothing to do with the church on the ground. Maybe help us there. What is it that MOX is envisioning going forward so that mosques can be viewed as a part of who we are as the Seventh Adventist Church?
Thank you very much. I think that's a very, very critical question in terms of strengthening relations between ACS and also Meals on Wheels. As Pastor Mundia has said, we do have an established relationship. They are members of our board. They get to input on our strategies. They get to input on our objectives. They get to input also on our strategies, even on the ground at community level, and how we can work with churches, even at board level. But my observation coming in as a new director this year, particularly coming in at the time of the COVID-19 crisis, is ACS has played a huge role in terms of its operations on the ground. So what normally happens in the churches is that, in terms of the Meals on Wheels model, is that we have centers, I call them branches, or they're also called service points. We have got about 710 service points. Some are located in church buildings, some are located in community halls, some are located in local schools, some are located in people's homes. So we bring people to those centers, to a central venue where meals, fresh, nutritious meals are served to the vulnerable and the destitute. How we link up with ACS is that our Dorcas ladies or our ACS ladies will actually move door to door and visit homes door to door and identify needs, which may be needs of food, but also which may be needs of clothing that are needed. So there will be our foot soldiers on the ground going out there, identifying the need out there, because we will not immediately just necessarily go out and do door to door as we're bringing people to our centers and cooking meals from our centers. But our ladies actually go out there and identify the needs, and they will come back to our branch managers to say, we've identified a home in Guamashu, in King Williamstown, in Soweto that needs 10 food parcels, for example. We need to mobilize as well clothes for that particular family. And I just want to mention just a classic story from one of my area directors who recently reported to me one of the ACS members or leaders in one of the districts. They actually, because during COVID-19 crisis, if you would recall that we are not bringing people in our centers, but we are actually cooking in the centers, but distributing the meals and taking meals to people. So what we are finding as well in this in this particular story is that the Dorcas lady identified a lady who couldn't walk, who couldn't do anything. The whole bottom, she had no legs. She had no feet, nothing. So the Dorcas lady came in there, cleaned her up, and organized the bed. She didn't have a bed. She realized that the family, they have alcohol. So the Dorcas ladies mobilize resources so that they can have food. The lady can have food. She can have a bed. She can have whatever she needs. And then they consulted Meals on Wheels, the area director, to say there's a lady who needs X and Y and Z. And our branch managers were able to go there and deliver food. We do deliver food as Meals on Wheels. Maybe just to also add that we do deliver meals, but particularly to the vulnerable, to the elderly who can't really go out to our centers. We also do deliver meals as well as Meals on Wheels. So I just want to just highlight that I think going forward, what I think needs to happen more, we need to strengthen those relations between the church and Meals on Wheels in the following. One, we need to improve the understanding of what is Meals on Wheels, what do we stand for, and what is ACS. So we need to run trainings in the local churches, in the local areas for local ACS leaders, for youth delegations. We need to run trainings to help improve the understanding of what is the role of ACS, what is the role of Meals on Wheels. We also need to to improve our understanding on community development. I think as a church, in terms of our mindsets about community development, we just think, oh, it's just about going out there and maybe just giving out literature. And I think we can play a role as ACS and Meals on Wheels in helping the church to understand what is community development.
Okay.
And community development is about issues of understanding who are your local leaders, who are your political leaders, how can you work with your local ward councillor, do a needs assessment in a community, how can you profile a community, how can you do a community survey. So Meals on Wheels and ACS can play a role in helping the church in understanding its role in community development going forward. So I just want to stop there for now.
Thank you. And I think you're mentioning a very critical point here that we need to, there must be a way to practicalize this relationship that exists now between ACS and MOX. But the way it is now, it looks like it's a casual, as on a need basis. And you are mentioning something that is very critical for the church, and I think to a certain extent we are far behind. And this issue of community development, because sometimes we don't even do profiles, but we go out and work. So how do we know that we are maximizing our impact? And this brings me to this question now, that now COVID-19 has come. And what role, what impact have we been having in when it comes to COVID-19? Maybe let me come back to Hoji. I'll come back to you, madam. In as far as the Cape Conference is concerned, how have you been visible, and what kind of impact do you have as we speak so far in as far as the Cape Conference is concerned?
Thank you, Chair. I think that the first thing is we needed to create a system or a response that ensures the protection of everyone, that ensures that whatever we do give may be aligned with the regulations. And this has been, of course, through the level of partnerships we have created with similar NGOs, where we were able to have provide food parcels, to provide meals, cooked meals to the most vulnerable. And in short, Chair, the first thing would be that we have provided food for the homeless shelters. This has been activated in the Eastern Cape and also in the Western Cape, so that we provide nutritious meals 3 times a day, which would be breakfast, lunch, and supper. The other factor that we have provided for is food parcels to all our areas, which would be the Western Cape, the Northern Cape, and also the Eastern Cape. And if we were to look into the stats, Chair, is that 7,411 meals in the Northern Cape alone had been provided. And then you look at 753 food parcels had been distributed throughout the Northern Cape. When you go to the Western Cape, for instance, you have over 300,000 meals, cooked meals, that have been provided during this period alone, and 7,722 food parcels distributed right through the Western Cape. And in my area, 41,593 meals have been provided during this COVID period time, and 5,382 food parcels have been distributed. And what we have also been doing is to deliver food parcels where we have means of delivering to the most vulnerable, as the National Director has articulated, through the most vulnerable, whether it may be age or through a disability. Those are the activities that we have instituted. And of course, we need to appreciate the donations that have made this to happen, where those donations have been in kind, those donations have been in financial gain, those contributions have been in food parcels, in dry goods. And therefore, these activities have helped us to intensify a response that addresses the vulnerable, the needy, and those who require some assistance from Meals on Wheels. Thank you, Chair.
Good. Rantsoabe?
Thank you, Chair. Meals on Wheels TOC, we are privileged as well, like the Cape Conference, to have a network of centers, both in the urban and rural communities, focusing mainly on the previously disadvantaged communities. Our intervention as well has been mostly to provide cooked meals through our network of centers. And these cooked meals were primarily provided in the city of Johannesburg in a program that where we partnered with Department of Social Development and also the city of Johannesburg to provide meals to the homeless people who have been removed from the street and placed in about 7 shelters. So for a period of about 2 months, Meals on Wheels TOC was serving 7,000 meals a day to these homeless shelters, to the homeless people 3 times a day. But we were not only providing these meals to the homeless people, we were also cooking in some of our centers and serving our beneficiaries. And the focus mostly was on the children and the people living in disability, and also on the elderly, because of the government regulations which prevented mass gatherings. But we were also able to deliver the food, especially to the elderly and those who could not come to our center. Our second intervention was to provide food parcels as well, because again, as stated, because of the government regulations which prohibited gatherings of people. So we had to give out more food parcels than we will regularly give, because as Meals on Wheels, our core business is to provide nutritious meals. But when people are limited from coming to the center because of fears of the spread of virus and also various regulations that were imposed, we had to reorganize ourselves and give out more food parcels in all the areas that we were serving, that we have a network of centers as Meals on Wheels. In our territory, we have about 48 centers, and all our centers did provide food parcels, especially to our beneficiaries. Thank you.
So how many meals did you serve during this COVID period so far?
If I were to speak of all the areas that we cover as Meals on Wheels TOC, our stats will also include the Northern Conference Office, because we are in the same territory. In the Gauteng area alone, we served 929,895 meals and a total of 17,000 food parcels. In Mpumalanga, we served 11,255 meals and a total of 206 food parcels. In Limpopo, we served a total of 13,400 meals and 486 food parcels. In the Northwest, we served 441 meals and a total of 245 food parcels.
Wonderful. I just want to shift. I'll come back to Mox right now. Are you back there? Pastor Nech, are you with us? All right, he's still not there. Let me come back to you, Madam. I mean, there's when I listen to these stats, there's a lot of noise to be made here. You know, and I don't think we are making the necessary noise to our constituency and the people at large. What is it that needs to be done going forward?
Yeah. Maybe just to retract a bit before I answer that question, to say overall, in terms of the number of meals, because I want the church to know this, that in terms of all our areas combined,
yes,
we are sitting just in the COVID-19 period. So that will be your 25 March up till now.
yes.
Meals community services in total for all our areas, we've served a total of 1.4 million 02,000 meals, and that's a lot of meals.
Of course,
just
yes.
under 1.5 million meals. And I want to emphasize that is big, that is huge for a food security NGO in South Africa to serve that amount of meals in such a short period of time. And we've, in terms of food parcels, we've distributed 34,340 food parcels just in this COVID-19 period. And you spoke about impact. It's huge, the impact that we have made in terms of this, that it's not just about food and offering a plate of food, but it's more about giving hope and restoring dignity. If you saw the kinds of meals served by Eastern Cape, by Mox TOC, meals that have got proteins, that have got several colors of vegetables. When a homeless person gets that plate, that warm plate, and interacts with that plate, to him it says, I am somebody, I'm important. Because we see those people as useless people. Oh, he's a homeless person, we don't even know their names. But it was more about really restoring dignity and giving hope to people, that I'm somebody, that someone out there cares for me, and someone out there knows our need. In terms of, I think, your question going forward, I think we really need to conscientize the church about the role of giving. And I've said this also to my team. I've appreciated what the church has done during this time. We've had volunteers from different churches coming at different points. We've had Adventist Athletics Club coming on board. We've had pastors. We had volunteers in some of the churches, or professionals in their spaces of work, coming to cook, coming to deliver food. But I think we do need, as churches, to rethink our mindset in terms of how we view the issue of giving. We're having a lot of requests, and we are seeing that this is going to risk our resources as Meals on Wheels. If a church another church would come and say, we have 10,000 people, for example, that need meals. We have 1,000 people that need meals. We have 2,000 people there that need meals. We can't afford that in terms of our resources as Meals on Wheels. So we are appealing going forward that we need to organize our community services departments in our local churches, finance them, support them operationally, so that we are able to partner with Meals on Wheels. I've said in certain presentations that if a church, for example, comes and says, we have collected as a church, in terms of our ACS project, 500 food parcels, but the need is more than 500. We have 1,000 people in this particular informal settlement. Can you come on board Meals on Wheels and top up with an additional 500 food parcels? I think that's the sort of partnership I'm looking at going forward, where the church partners with Meals on Wheels through organizing its community services departments operationally, structurally, and financially, so that they're able to meet halfway with Meals on Wheels, so that the role of giving is not outsourced to just these NGOs, as they don't have a huge amount of resources. Number two, Meals on Wheels is a public organization. In other words, even though it's owned and operated by the church, but its values and its principles and its constitution it does not discriminate against color, race, or religion. So we should not have a bias to say we are serving this particular faith-based organization or faith-based institution. It's for the general public, and we should be serving vulnerable people regardless of race, of color, of religion. We should be able as Meals on Wheels to serve everyone. And for that, we need a very, very organized church that is well-resourced. Then Meals on Wheels can come on board to say, we can partner with you. We're also looking at a relationship where we can offer trainings for the church, as I said earlier on, trainings on community development, so that the church is challenged in terms of its mindset and not just think for this particular project, we must just give literature and then food parcels and then just run away after that. But a real ministry based on the true principles of community development, which are based on establishing lasting, sustainable relationships with people.
Good. Thank you very much. Pastor Michize, how have you been, as ACS, be of impact in our territory during this COVID-19?
Thank you, Mruti. Thank you for the opportunity to share. I was listening to very big reports, but I then thought about impact. And when it comes to impact, all efforts count, and therefore we can share our report. In the TOC, we're able to share 551 food parcels throughout the COVID-19 period. And how we did that is that in the 26 districts or regions of the TOC, we're able to go to all of them, first be present, mobilize local churches so that they can do that. Now, when we talk about 551 food parcels, that's only for the office in the TOC, the administrative office. On the ground, we are collecting reports. So far as we have collected, the Dockers Federation itself, they have done 2,000 food parcels around, and then we are yet to receive reports. We are still collecting reports that are in progress, include pastors and local churches that have heeded to the call to make a difference where they are. So that has been our intervention. Of course, later on, I hope you'll give us an opportunity to discuss the challenges and way forward. Then I'm sure we can shed more light. But so far, we are very much excited of the pastors, the members, the Dockers Federation, and the individuals who came through. And also for us to do that, we also had private donors who are willing to come, and all of them, surprisingly, they were not looking to be named to assist, but people would come to and says, look, how far are you? So that when in the collection of food that we have, if we run out of oil, for example, or we run out of meal, and we have others, then you'd find a donor would say, I can give you X parcels of meal so that you make up. So now and then we had to balance and to see how far we can get, but we are very excited that in the little that we have done, we at least did something. But secondly, more proud that our department was present in all the 26 regions or districts of the TOC to go see and mobilize and assist them. And lastly, very excited that we at least played a role.
All right, thank you very much. I see that Pastor Nesh, I think, is back on there. Pastor Nesh, are you with us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, no, I've been struggling. I actually thought that you are also in charge of muting and unmuting, so I had been muted all this time long.
Oh, okay.
Until I managed to find out how to go about it.
Oh, I see. Maybe we should have conducted a workshop for you on this thing now.
Yeah, I mean, what is happening is normally the setups on the phone are a little bit different from those on the
Yes. But my question though for you is, given what is happening now in relation to COVID-19, and what ADRA has done, and what we have discussed so far between ACS and MOOCs, it's clear also when you talk to the churches on the ground that there seems to be a big gap with those that know MOOCs. But when we see what MOOCs and ACS is doing, there are a lot of similarities, very good things that are happening. What is it that can be done from your side as ADRA so that there is this synergy that can take place between you and MOOCs at a church level? Because I really believe that the impact could be greater than what we have now. So as ADRA, what is it that you're planning to do, or that can be done going forward?
Okay, I realize that I've actually missed up and a lot on the previous discussions that have been done. And I'm not sure if maybe I should not, for the benefit of the listeners, try to explain a bit what ADRA is. It is popularly known with its acronym ADRA, but the full name is Adventist Development and Relief Agency. So ADRA focuses on the 4 portfolios, which is health from the developmental perspective, education also from the developmental perspective, and we are also involved in disaster management. We are also involved in livelihood, which is one of our 4 portfolios. The 3 are developmental. One is more on the disaster relief and risk reduction as well.
Yes.
ADRA, as such, it is a humanitarian arm of the Seventh-day Adventist Church globally. And we exist in more than 130 countries globally. So it's very much of a church product and also a church organization. We are an agency of the church. And by saying we're an agency, what it means is that we act on behalf of the church, because right from the 1st century, during the Apostolic Church, it became apparent that there was a need of separating the 2 ministries, the ministry of the word as well as the ministry of the table. And for the ministry of the tables, deacons were sort of like appointed to do just that. Yes. But since then, the church has tried to find a balance between the 2, the ministry of the word, which is the clinical ministry of the preaching of the word, and also the humanitarian one, which is referred to by the Bible as the ministry of the tables. And this is the space in which we actually find ourselves. So ADRA was organized to be an agency of the church to do on behalf of the church the ministry of the tables. And this is what we are still doing at the moment. In terms of our relationship maybe with the church, we have been trying very hard to at least have each of the conference ACS leaders, directors in each of the conferences, to also assist with the coordination of the ADRA portfolio issues. We are glad to report that so far we have had a very nice cooperation from the TOC and also the KNFC, in the sense that those 2 conferences have allocated to us dedicated directors from the ACS to assist with the coordination of ADRA work in those particular areas. When it comes to ACS proper, our thinking and our like at the union level, you know, we are actually waiting for a day when the church, through its voice, like ACS, can also provide just a singular voice to the church constituency on the ministry of the tables. That is combining all reports from Dorcas, from MOOCs, from ADRA, as the ministry or as the initiatives of the church. Because this is what our church people also are yearning to hear, that this is what their church is actually doing.
Pastor Nash.
Yes.
But the thing is that we really need to maybe address is the issue of ACS working closely together with MOOCs at church level. Because there is confusion now, and my question is, what is it that can be done so that we clear that confusion, so that people, when they look at MOOCs and ACS, they can see them as part and parcel of the family, not the other one as an adopted child?
I think what we need to do is to go back into the church manual and rewrite some of the job descriptions.
Yes.
Like, for instance, if you were to rewrite the job description of the local church ACS leader, whether it is at the local church or the conference or the union, but the local church ACS leader, so responsibility should be seen as that of the coordination of the church's response to humanitarian needs at a local church level, using all the tools and the agencies that are available, whether it be MOOCs or ADRA or DOCAS. The ACS leadership at the local church level or functionary should be that of coordination of all these humanitarian ministries and give them a voice as well as a platform.
Good.
So,
now,
but that has not happened, but this is what I'm saying. We need to rewrite some of this thing at the local church level, but cascading really from the union, going down to the local church level.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, time is our enemy now, or the other way. But my point is, I think from here, now that we are in agreement with the value adds that both organizations bring, whilst we are waiting for the rewriting of the manuals, there should be initiatives now going forward that say, look, these are the roles we need to play. These are the synergies that we need to establish going forward, so that this work can be much more effective and efficient, more impactful to our community. Because here we are actually carrying a very rare jewel, if we can just get this thing right in terms of the synergies that we are looking for. Pastor Mundia, a closing comment from your side?
Yes, Pastor Chair. Thank you very much for, I think that question, it feels like maybe we don't understand it as from this level. We don't understand the seriousness of it at local church level. Yeah. But in my mind, there should not be a conflict between ADRA and MOOCs, or between, among these three. They are all community-based, service departments of the church. They all go or respond to the common plight on the ground, that is disaster and relief. Yes. We pick it from there. The only difference comes in where do we get resources that we can go and help the people on the ground. ADRA and MOOCs get resources from the public, including government and other private entities or corporations, businesses.
Yes.
Whereas mostly in community service, we rely on our members, but we can still go there. We don't have to register, but we use our local church members. So the next question then would be, how do we work together, or how does ADRA, MOX, and ACS in local church work together? In my view, it should be simple. ADRA and MOX do not have enough human resource capacity, especially on the ground, maybe when it comes to preparing meals or distributing meals. It is in that area when they need a service that if they are operating within a given local territory of a church or a conference, the conference should be able to tell her members to say, guys, there's a lot of work that MOX is doing on the ground. There's a lot of work that ADRA is doing on the ground. Can we mobilize our volunteer service at local church level to go and do the distribution of whatever is necessary? I think that is the area.
Okay. Thank you.
Pastor?
Yes.
Yeah,
I would like to chip in there on the issue of shared responsibility and going forward.
Yes.
I'm excited to hear Sister Juba talk about monks being a church, the relationship. It's my first time hearing that kind of explanation, because all along I had labored under the issue that monks is just only a partner. It was started, it's privately owned, it's only a partner. But today I'm finding a different explanation, that it's not a partner, it's part. So it's part. So now one has to align that, because in the truth of the matter is, right now during COVID-19, Pastor Rantsoabe's audience is set and done. There is little room to expand on that. That's as far as I know. He will correct where I am wrong. Now, MOX has got its own beneficiaries. It has its own centers that they are working at. Now, during the COVID-19, we have experienced a cry where members are making a different request. You see, all along, we've been trying to mobilize the church to go into community service. And that is right, that we must continue to do. Yet, what has been the challenge now during COVID-19 has been members saying to the church, we are hungry. How does the church help us in our hunger? And those are the calls that now came through my department to say, as and when we are thinking of beneficiaries and the community, even these church members are part of the community, and there lies a challenge. Now, whereas organizationally and operationally, we may be having a plan to say, no, ACS is in the local church, is on the ground. That is true. But then when it comes to the organizational part, we struggle in that we did not have resources. If you were to think about the 49,000 members that are in the TOC, and the only thing that we could do is 551 parcels, because we had to now try and find survival, simply because it is unclear in our relationship. Perhaps this conversation will take us there to say, how do we get even to the part of shared resources? Therefore, my view is, it is dangerous to have an organization like this one, or ACS in the case of the TOC, that has no legal standing, that is registered, that cannot find a donor with money who says, I want tax exemption if I give you money. It is dangerous to only leave it as saying you are members of the church and do not organize it so that it can raise funding, it can find the donors of itself, it can go out in the name of ACS and finding its own money. Right now, we are only at a begging stage. But the reason why you find the Meals on Wheels being able to do what they are doing, it is because the legal entity gives them feet. It gives them a platform and a foundation for anybody out there to come in. They can be recognized by government to say, we are aware you are doing this, we can partner with you, we can work with you. Therefore, I wanted us to rethink what Pastor Mundia was saying earlier, to say we need not registration. From where I am sitting in the office, it is desperate. And if we do not get that route, go to that route, we are going to remain only with foot soldiers. The truth of the matter is, in every church, there is an Adventist man and there is a Dorcas person, and also many volunteers who are willing to help. So where I am sitting, I have a lot of volunteers. I have a lot of hands. What I don't have is the resources. Churches are also struggling. So now there is limited budget on that to do. Without registration, we can never even get to any 10% of all these NGOs are able to do. Such that in our discussions, if you look at ACS, you look at ADRA, you look at MOOCs. The reason why ADRA and MOOCs are going to present to you an appealing report, it is because they are legal standing, and their recognition because of that legal standing has given them feet, has given them resources. They are standing, they are organized, they are set up, they are able to stand. Somebody can say, I can give you so many parcels, go and distribute. We are not there, we are lacking resources, and therefore I'm thinking, to discuss community service only at a church level, we are going to struggle. We need to also, as ACS, to register, to be a registered entity, to raise funding, to be recognized by government as an entity that can work with social development, that can raise funds, so that at this point, we would also be able to say, social development was able to come. The government was able to do this. When it is in the church, we have all experienced this thing. I'm speaking from a reality point of view. All the churches, entities that are in South Africa, we stand to understand and ask, how much did they put in the community service or in the ACS department to make sure it also has its own footprint within the church and to make a difference? Now, that's a difficult question. I don't think it's political. I think it's truth that must be told. Unless and when ACS is fully organized, fully registered, and also recognized, we will always give out these small reports. We have a lot of soldiers, but we have no things to run with.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted.
I'll come back to you. I'll give you a chance to make your final comments. Let me start with Funzo Khoji, your final comment.
Thank you, Chair. I guess more than anything, what would seem to be a way forward needed for the church, it would be a level of induction or orientation or a training where all these ministries come together to shape a direction. But in fact, before we are able to even go to local church grassroots, I think these entities need to meet up and brainstorm a direction that addresses the need in South Africa.
Okay.
Because when we speak of Meals on Wheels, it is not in any other place except in South Africa.
Yes.
An image, particularly to South Africa. And therefore, ACS may be a global, ADRA may be a global, but how do we merge these would be something that all these entities need to come up with. So that when we then go to local grassroots church, we are able to have one voice on this is how we should operate. This is how we should interlink moving forward. I mean, like the cry is the same, that it is community services. And I guess more than anything, we have different responsibilities of its performance. And I guess more than anything, it is when we have come together that we'll be able to establish where is our goal as the Adventist Church in South Africa.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, as Pastor Netch has made mention that in the union, we need to speak to a clear position, a clear directive on what pertains or what is essential in us achieving a community activation from our members. I mean, like the practical example, Pastor Chepi, before I just conclude, is that in our personal capacities as Adventists, we have made sure that an activation program is run. And that is purely ACS, because it seeks to encourage its members to participate and to be involved and to create an awareness through Christ. And therefore, you come in through ADRA, which is a development and relief agency, which also in such pandemics. And then you have MOOCs, which also deals with one of its core businesses to provide nutritious meals. All these seek to address and to relate to Adventists and non-Adventists. That's why we do not segregate or we do not marginalize. We just look at the service that needs to be rendered. And the question is, can all of us as these agencies of change, as these agencies come together to give a clear direction on how Christ would have done if he was here for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, friend. Yes, my director?
Yeah, I have a few comments as well about, I think what is lacking, I think the policies are there. The church manual, I think, is quite clear. I think we could amend it as Pastor Netch has suggested, but I know that those processes take quite a while, or can take quite a while. But I think what is needed is a level of strategic coordination amongst the three of us. As Pastor Hoji has said, I think we need to be well coordinated as the welfare arms of the church with its various responsibilities. We need to come together and identify concrete strategies around information dissemination, for example. How do we disseminate information around the role of Meals on Wheels, the role of ADRA, the role of ACS? How do we offer trainings and inductions and so forth for our local churches around community development? So I think we just need to come up with a clear strategy. And for me, the issue is coordination. The principles are there, the manuals are there, but we need to meet and brainstorm and coordinate and come up with a strategy, how to reach out, how to meet these needs. I think that's number one. I think also what is actually needed as well going forward, just going back to what Pastor Thulani has said, I've been reading a lot about what the GC is saying and what the World Church is saying about the centers of influence in each and every church, that we could have the centers of influence in each and every church. And what is being said is that the principle is that we need to connect with members. That's the principle. We need to connect with, the community. That's the principle. So we should not get stuck whether we are registered or not registered. There are some organizations that I've worked with which are not registered, but which are able to garner resources, which are able to fundraise and partner with NGOs. So I think what is important is that we need to meet as the three arms of the church, brainstorm a strategy, and then see what is possible in each and every church. Should we go the registration route? Should we go just this informal community-based models, which are not registered, that can really meet the needs of the community? So we shouldn't be bogged down, I think, with issues of registration or not registration. And I think what is important, I think, as the Adventist Church that I want to raise as well today, is that we should be conscious of our approach in terms of community work and community development. And I just want to read the statement of Christ, that what I'm finding with the churches is that we are so quick to giving out tracts. We're so quick to just giving out this short, instant type of evangelistic effort. And I want to read the statement from the Ministry of Healing, which says, "The Savior mingled among people as one who desired their good. He showed sympathy. He ministered to people's needs. He won their confidence, and he bade them follow me." And I think that's the model when we're brainstorming the strategies. That's the model that we should follow as these ministries, that we should encourage in our churches. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Rantsoabe, your closing thought?
Thank you, Chair. I think in the Bible, one of the underlining themes of the Old and the New Testament is the biblical mandate of the church to make a difference in the community to those who are less fortunate. I mean, this is even more prevalent in the writings of Sister White. I remember in the book Ministry of Healing, page 19, she says, Christ devoted more time to healing the sick than to preaching. And my wish is that each and every church could study their community and identify the specific needs of their respective communities, and then sit down to draw a plan on how each church can make a difference in their respective communities using their various departments or ministries that we have in the church. I like what the church manual says when it says the goal of every department is evangelism. And for me, evangelism is outreach. So we are blessed with these wonderful ministries, but most of the time they tend to be inreach and not outreach. I wish we can reach out to our communities and make a difference. And the only way we can achieve this is if we prioritize community development to the extent of budgeting for it. Most of the times we are guilty of wanting accountability, but not wanting to take responsibility. I wish each and every church could set aside a budget to make a difference in their respective communities. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Nech, your final thoughts?
You know, sometimes the good thing about development of specialized ministries is that it gives the church tools to do a highly specialized work. But some of the unintended outcomes of that are that sometimes we may end up actually building our own silos. Because I'm into developmental space, I might actually wish that the whole church's focus and outlook should be developmental. But when you talk to Pastor Mapumulo, who is really in the clinical ministry as a pastor, he may actually feel that these developmental agencies here, they are wasting time and wasting resources if the money that is being spent in that area was going into evangelism. Christ would have come. But this takes us back to the whole issue of, yes, I think here in South Africa, to think locally and act globally, understand our local context and how we can actually link with the whole globe.
Did we lose him? Yeah, he muted
Yeah, I
himself.
can't hear him anymore.
Yeah, he muted himself.
Oh, he's back.
Nature, you back? All right. All right. Here is. Let me close with the following. Number one, based on what we have. Number one, we can't finish everything today in one session. I'm sorry?
Hello, are you still there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, what I wanted to actually say was that these specialized ministries are agencies of the church. In other words, we were not supposed to be putting Pastor Michize in an unenvious position of looking at the whole thing at a horizontal level. As the agencies of the church, our reports are supposed to be his reports. The 11,500 food parcels that we delivered in the Free State and what MOX did in the TOC territory, they are supposed to be Pastor Michize's reports, in the sense that the ACS as the church or the mainstream church has organized this also specialized ministries so that they can give effect to the mission of the church in a very different way. And this calls again for closing up the gaps even at the higher structure of the union, so that we can be able to rebuild our ACS as that department that provides an enabling environment for specialized ministries, or for the development and the sponsorship of specialized ministries, to which as ACS it will be able to give a voice and even make sure that when it talks on behalf of all of them.
Yes.
I am crying for the day when we shall be able to do that, and I think we have already started with that kind of a journey at the union level.
All right. Thank you, Mfundisi. In closing, I just want to say the following, that it is clear based on our discussion that number one, we need to review the model under which we operate going forward, because it's clear that we can do better, but if we begin to kill silos without killing the vision of each entity, we can do more. And number two, that there is also a great need of canvassing for a change of mindset.
Yeah.
And because we are steeped into what worked then, but
Yeah.
we are not moving, we are not being relevant sometimes with the needs that are changing over the years. And I think, therefore, the coming together in a conversation between ACS, MOGS, ADRA will really move us as this union to be much more of greater impact to the communities within which we operate. And I want to say, therefore, to challenge our leaders here that let's plan a conversation that is formal enough that will be able to say, look, your vision is good, my vision is good, his vision is good, but what do we do for all of us to integrate what we do and be of greater impact to the people? And I think if that conversation can start now from the union level, from now going forward, and help local churches, I think we can go far as a union, and the work that we do could be much more bigger than what we are doing now. But I just want to thank everybody for your participation, and Lord willing, maybe we will have a similar engagement in the near future. Thank you very much. Thanks each one, and wish you God's blessings in your work. Let me ask, I'm sorry? As we
Just, hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm
Listening?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to say as well that I think it's a perfect summary, and I want us to leave with the impression that even at the union, as Pastor Netch has said, let's not lose that point that we have already started that conversation. It's just that COVID somehow has stopped our plans to meet, but we had already been in conversation, the three of us, to say we need to meet, we need to have better coordination in terms of our work and so forth. So I just want to emphasize that conversation has already started, and would be willing to come back again as directors to initiate that conversation.
All right. Thank you very much. Pastor Mundia, can you please close for us with prayer?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Before I pray, I just want to emphasize that point that we had already started in the past. We almost had a workshop for, the three departments. We wanted to start with the TOC last year, but some things didn't work out for us, where MOX director, ACS director, and the ADRA director needed to team up together to go and run a workshop so that we coordinate these things and explain where explanations are necessary, and then chart the way forward. So it's still coming. We are coordinating. Let us pray.
Pastor Mundia. Look, let me ask this, please, that these talks should not be eternal.
No, we are praying.
So let's make sure these things happen now. Let's stop praying now. Let's act and make
Absolutely.
This happen. Thank you, Pastor.
Okay, let's pray. We thank you, dear Heavenly Father, for the privilege of coming together as missionaries and as a church in the community. We want to invite you again to continue to bless this church in ways that we have not even imagined. Yeah. Bless every minister and missionary that is here, especially in the work of bridging the church and the community and becoming relevant in the community so that they can see the love, the compassion of Jesus Christ through the felt needs. I pray for everyone. I pray for the church. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Amen. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, colleagues. Bye-bye, colleagues.
Bye-bye,
Bye
colleagues.
bye. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.